Welcome to today's algebra tutorial by Caz Academy. Today we will be covering how to add and subtract polynomials. To add or subtract polynomials, we simply need to line the variables up by like terms and then add or subtract the coefficients. You'll notice on these two equations that these two problems that the only thing different is the sign. So we're going to do one with addition and one with subtraction. So with this first one, I'm going to start by writing down my equation. Then we're doing addition, so I'm going to put my plus sign. Now I'm going to write down my second equation, lining them up with the same terms, so that the like variables are lined up with each other. And you'll notice that there isn't an x to the 0 on this last one, which just means that that coefficient is a 0. So I can put the 0 there as a placeholder. You can also leave it blank, but I find that putting a 0 there helps to make sure that I've got all of my terms. Now I'm just going to add each of those columns. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 minus 2 is 0. Negative 9 plus 4 is a minus 5. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So that would make my final answer 4x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6. Now let's do the same thing, but this time we're going to do subtraction. Now you'll notice that when I have a subtraction, a minus sign, that is the same as taking plus minus 1 times everything inside that parentheses. So I can go ahead and I can distribute that negative 1 changes to a positive and make that a minus 1 times each of those coefficients. And what that's going to do is if I take minus 1 times each of those, it's simply going to change the sign. So if I have a negative and a negative, that's going to be a positive. A negative and a positive will make a negative. A negative and a negative is going to be a positive. So if you'll notice that my equation that I started out with and the equation that I'm going to use in my problem, the only thing different is that all of those signs have changed, are now reversed. So now I'm going to go ahead and solve my problem. I'm going to write down the original equation. And then because I changed my negative, I changed it to a plus minus 1 and then distributed that 1. Now I can change that subtraction problem to an addition problem because I'm going to use my new equation that already distributed that negative. And we noticed from here before we didn't have a coefficient, so that is just 0. And now I'm just going to go ahead and add my columns. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 9 plus negative 4 is a negative 13. 7 plus 3 is 10. And that's my final answer, is 10x cubed minus 3 13x squared plus 4x plus 6. Once again, you'll notice the only thing different between adding and subtracting these two polynomials is that one I've got an addition sign, and then the other one I have a subtraction sign. But other than that, these two equations are exactly the same. So let's do what we did before. We're going to line them up just like we did before. This is addition, so we're going to do our addition. Then once again, we're going to line things up by matching the variables to match the same degrees. Now you'll notice that on this second one, I'm missing that W. So that means I've got a 0 here. It has a 0 coefficient in front of that W to the 1. So I can just put in a 0. You can either put in a 0 or you can just leave that blank. You just want to make sure that you're matching up the like variables, and then you're going to do your addition. 4 plus negative 6 is a negative 2, negative 3 and 0, negative 2 and a negative 12. And this is going to be my final answer. And you'll notice in the first problem we had our variables were x's. In this problem our variables are w's. So that's one thing you'll notice is that variables can be any letter of the alphabet. So if they change the letter on you, don't let that throw you when you're solving your problems. To do subtraction, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the first equation, minus 2 minus 2w squared minus 3w plus 4. Then we have a negative minus 12w squared plus our 0w minus 6. So now what we can do, because we have subtraction, we can change this to a positive and multiply each of those by a negative 1, which is simply the same as changing the sign in front of each of those coefficients. So now I've changed it from a subtraction problem to an addition problem because that minus is the same as plus a minus 1 times everything in those parentheses. So now I'm going to add my columns. 4 plus 6 is 10. Minus 3 minus 0 is a minus 3w. Minus 2 plus 12 is a 10w squared. And that's my final answer. 10w squared minus 3w plus 10. And that's how you add and subtract polynomials. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to get the latest videos by Caz Academy. And be sure to check out the links in the description for additional supports and resources.